Welcome, everyone. Hi, I'm Meg Benedicte, and we are here on the New Earth Central podcast. We're so happy you're joining us. And let me introduce my beautiful co host, Manette Mays. Welcome, Manette.
Hi everyone. So glad you could join us. Thank you for always calling me beautiful. It sets me that's important to me. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
My beautiful co host. Yes, it's the perfect lead. So we're here in such an intense time. Before we got started here, we were kind of checking in with each other and how are you doing? And Manette and I have been doing the New Earth podcast in different formats since 2011, so 15 years now. And part of it is because even back then, I began to realize the world was rapidly changing. And we were on kind of the cusp of a new society or a new way of living and a new way of operating. And I could see it kind of in front of us, right? And like, let's get in there. Like, come on, let's jump in and get into this new realm, this new world, this new earth. And so that's been our focus all these years doing the podcast together. So this is our main message is, well, what is this new world, new earth that is 15 years later here in 2026 really coming alive and really beginning to support those of us who have been on that path, right? And why are we doing that? Because that would be probably the first question to beg. Why are we moving into where are we coming from?
Yeah,
So maybe
yeah, yeah.
let's start there. Why are we leaving what we were born into? It's, everyone just take a moment and go, okay, what was the world I was born into? And how does it operate and function? And especially for those of us who are not in the top 1% of billionaires, we are here witnessing this system, what we call a hierarchy system. So if you kind of want to have a visual in your mind, it's like a pyramid or a triangle. And it's an extraction system, right? It's extracting all the resources and all the wealth and all the power in the world all the way up to the top who are controlling the world, controlling the system. This pyramid or triangle, it's a hierarchy, but our hierarchy that we're born into is also a patriarchy, and so it is dominated by men. And we were born I was born in the 60s and 70s where I couldn't even have a bank account. I wasn't even allowed to have my own business or a credit card or own property, folks. I was born before we had the women's liberation movement, before feminism was even a term. Okay, I was born in a world that I had to rely on my patriarchal father to open a bank account for me. And this has been something that we've all have encountered in some way. How is that top-down authoritarian power system affecting us? Now I'm talking all of us, right? All who are alive in it, because we're all affected by it in negative ways.
Men and women. I think people hear that and people assume that it's man hating. I think a lot of people aren't present to how that system limits, harms, and in some ways suffocates men just as much. You're taking a human that also has feelings and plans and dreams, and you're telling them, no, you have to soldier on. You have to take care of these other people. Forget what you want. Your emotions aren't important. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to feel. You just go forth and do what I say.
I grew up with 3 brothers, and I could see how that was being imposed on them too. I was insignificant as the one female, and they were put up on the pedestal as males in the family hierarchy. But like you said, they had to toughen up, right? And they weren't allowed to cry, and they weren't allowed to feel and or even emote or communicate or anything like this. And so it's so damaging to everyone, and it's unnatural. And so we've been we've been deeply conditioned in the system to behave a certain way and to have kind of like that certain mindset. Like I think of it like the lens that I see the world through, right? There's the patriarchal lens. I see everything through that lens. And then I went right into it. I was raised in a patriarchal religion and private school, Catholic school, then went into the corporate world, another hierarchy. Everywhere I went, I was immersed in it. And so when I started awakening, one of the first things that as you all know, when you go through any kind of a conscious awakening, you're like looking around going, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. What is this? For me, it was viscerally repulsed by it, right? It was just kind of like, I cannot stand being in this system. And so I started pulling out of it literally the year 2000 when we moved from the 1000s to the 2000s and into the two in numerologies of the feminine energies. And we're starting to see that grow and increase all around the world. And you have to ask, why is this hierarchy, this patriarchy, oppressing feminine qualities, oppressing feminine energy, suppressing, oppressing, destroying, denying, conditioning us that that's weak, even to the point where we have in the religions where creation comes from a male god. Okay, you guys, when you really start to observe it,
So, being able to accept all that you are, humanity is accepting its ability to live with the masculine and the feminine energy. And I want you to think about when you were talking about how when you came into the world, you had to rely on your father to get a credit card, open a business, etc. You know how many places in the world that's still true?
so true.
Right? We were born in the United States. We're on the West
Yes.
Coast. We had a ton of freedom to begin with. I fortunately came along a little bit later where, I was born to a very strong man, but a man who decided that his daughters were the best thing in the whole world. So I was raised with a more empowering kind of model as far as that's concerned. But I still knew I remember being little, going to work with my dad, and I don't know what I decided, even as a little one, I don't even think I was in the first grade yet, but I remember going to office, and I remember meeting the secretaries and the other women that worked in the office. I don't know what I saw being exchanged, but what went in my heart that little, I never wanna be a secretary. Something about the feeling of whatever that was, where he has all of that and they don't have any, I don't wanna be whatever that was. So, what you've been describing, though, is the way that we've all had to operate in order to survive. It's not that it's been comfortable for any of us, but we know that being in the world is what it required. So it wasn't even only men oppressing women, it was women teaching other women to be oppressed.
I know growing up, my mother was a traditional wife. And she never ever trained me or prepared me to take care of myself in the world. It was always I needed to go get married. So this was, have someone else take care of everything. And so I guess maybe this is where I bucked the system and decided, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I put myself through college. I didn't get any help from anyone. And it was like, all right, I'm on my own and I'm going to make this happen. And it does take a certain personality, I think, personality traits to kind of self motivate yourself that way. But I could not live in that system. Like it was literally my body was repelling. I could not do it. And so when something when you are so out of sync with any kind of person or place or system like that, it's almost like you don't have a choice. And so it was this inner, I guess we'll call it our inner soul, right? Our inner truth was stronger, I guess, than being in that system. And it propelled me out of it. And not to say it was not challenging, it was very challenging trying to figure out, well, then how do I live and function and take care of myself not in that system. What is the alternative? And at that point, there wasn't really much of an alternative. There were artists and musicians, and there were people who were doing their best to try to be like self-employed out of that system, even though even then that hierarchy would take their art or their music and again extract it. Like, where in the world can I bring my soul gifts out into the world, not in a hierarchy? And this is what's been coming through for Minette and I over the years with this new earth. The new earth system is the alternative. The new earth system is what is opening to all of us, and we can exit the hierarchy and come into this new system. One of the reasons that the hierarchy, the patriarchy, is so hell bent on suppressing and oppressing the feminine qualities, the feminine energies, the feminine power, because it can't exist when that is in full bloom, right? When we are embodying the feminine qualities, the feminine power, that's what was happening after my spiritual awakening, Manette, is that was starting to grow like little baby seed, right? It was starting to grow in me. And that's what was propelling me out of it, is I am awakening not only my connection to my spirit, my soul, but I'm also awakening my connection to this crushed, broken, wounded feminine energy inside me. And it has been, of course, I was in the 90s, so it's been 30 years or what of being in that healing space, being just present with that wounded feminine aspect of myself, like a broken fragment of myself, and heal her back into being in her full capacity, her full magnificence inside me, right? Her powerful creative fire and inspiration, and I mean all of it. And what it did is it helped me heal my heart, so my heart could open and be able to be in that compassion, because that was not allowed in the patriarchy. Those qualities, they will not allow those. So we were kind of talking about that. Like, if you have compassion, patriarchy tells you that's a weakness, but really what it is, when you have compassion, you're able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and you're able to empath what that feels like for them. Like, you're able to have compassion not only for what they're experiencing or feeling, but you realize, I've been there, sister. I know what that's like, right? And I feel for you. I'm here for you. And when you are able to be open heart, love flowing in you, compassion for others, that is a bonding glue, right?
Unity consciousness, right? Slows you down when you have to decide that what you're going to do needs to be for the highest good of all, not with you. So of course the stronger people that consider themselves in command aren't going to want to be slowed down by something as simple as compassion. You got to remember that same feminine energy that you opened up to in your life to express, it's in them too, but it's also in them now. So if they open themselves up to compassion and empathy and, okay, we gotta do this right, that means that they have to let all of their pain out too. How are you gonna hold on to everybody else and keep your control when you're addressing your pain? That's another reason to keep it compressed.
Yeah, when you're so that's when you're in a way disassociated, right? You're fragmenting away or splitting out of, which I was doing when I was in that system, right? Of my, because it's not only encouraged, it's in a way conditioned that we separate from our feeling body. We aren't, and this is men and women, but
Yeah.
it's
Be a soldier.
exactly, it's a way of being able to survive and cope in a very distorted power system,
Yeah.
and where it's not supporting you. And the other thing that I noticed too, okay, so when you have compassion and you start to live more and more from your own inner soul grace, right? And your own presence, then you can see that in others, right? And so you begin to also then go beyond what we call like kind of the ego personality, right? You start to see and connect heart to heart, soul to soul with others. That bonds us as well. So not only is it starting to pull us together instead of fragmenting us, splitting us apart, pulls us together, and then we begin to want, which is like what Minette and I have been doing together for 15 years, is we want to collaborate with each other. So it pulls us together in cooperation and mutual passions and purposes and inspirations and creations, right? You know, and so it creates more of a collaborative community. And when you have that, you can't hoard. You're not going to hoard all the wealth and power to yourself, right? You know?
Yeah, you were bringing me to my next thing.
Yeah, go,
Another
go, girl.
enemy of unity consciousness is the lie of scarcity.
Right.
When you think if I share with them, then I won't have. Or there's only this much to be had, and I want it all. I want it for myself, or I won't get any, right? But that's not the truth of spirit. You cannot plant a tomato vine and watch it grow, and you only get one tomato. Anybody with a tomato plant has a problem of what they're going to do with all those dang tomatoes. You can't, look up at the sky. You cannot count the stars. You cannot count sand. You cannot measure all the gallons of water. You can't count all the birds. You can't even count all the hairs on your own head. Abundance is the truth and the law, but the scarcity is how we've been forced into the fear of believing that we need to follow somebody who has more than us. So if we don't do what they say, then we're not going to have anything.
Well, and also too, what we're probably now seeing clearly is, I think part of the programming of the hierarchy was the top of humanity is, the smartest and the most creative, and right. It's actually the most narcissistic that's up at the top. So
Hey, let's call it sociopath. Let's call
let's
it
be
psychopath. A
real.
whole lot of other reasons that someone might believe they need to be that person, and no judgment about what they're doing, how they got there. That's none of my business. But feeling that you need to stay that way to the exclusion and to the harm to other people is what we're talking about. You don't have to harm other people to have the life that you want.
But that cruelty comes from the lack of compassion.
And being closed off from spirit. And people even care. I've even heard, sometimes I hear people, and I know they mean well when they speak of self-care and they speak of, well, don't do this. You don't spend so much time with these people. They're draining you. Blah, blah, blah. You know what? The truth of the matter is love doesn't belong to you. It's something that comes through you. So there's always more, just like there's always more water. There's always more. So if
The more you
you're
give out, the more you receive.
If
The more
you're
you hoard,
there you go.
the less love
There
you
you go.
receive.
And if you're feeling drained, that's from your ego. You're feeding somebody from your need to feed them or your need to be perceived in a certain way. But the love part, me and Meg were just talking about how tired we've been, and you guys have probably all been tired too with all these. But when it comes time for me to pick up the phone and give somebody love, all of a sudden I have enough energy to say the words.
It's like the endless wellspring, right? When you tap into it, it's always filling. The love is always filling. But I had to go in and heal the wounded feminine to get that well opened, because it was all, it was all closed off and shut down and body armor and all of that, right? I had to open my well and then bring spirit in, bring in the inflow, the universal inflow of abundance of love. We are in the midst of that old system collapsing. And this is partly why we're all exhausted. It's taking a toll on us psychologically, energetically, even physically, if you are experiencing hardships of housing and food and even basic essentials. So we do want to acknowledge that yes, we're approaching this more through the spiritual aspect, but we're still physical and we're still in these human bodies, and we're still having to acknowledge we're not little islands here on this planet. We're a part of an entire world that is going through a system collapse. Yes, we want the patriarchy to collapse, okay? We're not saying let's try to restore it and keep it going. No, we are not wanting that. But It is this is hard to deal with.
It's very hard. I've been like you said, I've been working you and I have been working together for 15 years. From the very first time we started working together and you were showing me and I was getting the sense of what we're working on and how to get your energy into your body and feel your soul and heal your heart and all those things. I was like, yeah, yeah, give me more, give me more. But even now, at this stage, still clearing my body, I have a really neat Pilates instructor. She's very wise on all the levels. Yes, she knows everything about the physical body, but spiritually, she's on point. The way she points at me and says, "Hey, that's still locked up in your thighs. That's still locked up in your hips." Ear that shows up from something that came in when I was 6 years old. Those things we're all still healing those things from our body. So yes, it's gonna create some fatigue. And I think I'd like to encourage anybody that we can ask for comfort, a little more help, give ourselves some space to do so, but we're never gonna get it done. That's the thing. There's no magic point to where it's done. We're working on ourselves, we're working on the earth, we're working on each other, and the joy of the transformation is the point.
And I think that's a key point because it back to kind of we're not islands here on the in this world. So the more that we come together and we support each other through a huge shift going on in the operating system of the world from the patriarchy. Let's talk a little bit about what this new earth system is. We're going to be talking about this a lot because it's almost like it's coming from the ethers and we're trying to bring it down into the earth plane and like, hey you guys, this is here, right? This is
That's what
here.
I call it bringing heaven to earth.
It is. It's not we don't have to go into dream state anymore to get into it. It's here. We have 2 parallel operating systems now in the earth plane. One is, of course, the one we were born into as the hierarchy, the patriarchy, but the other one, you can call it a lot of things. We could call it the matriarchy, but because everyone is so conditioned to think that it's a top-down power system, they're thinking we're trying to switch men at the top with women at the top. Let's just debunk that right now. That is not the matriarchy is a circle. It's not a triangle power system, it's a circle. And when you are in a circle, it's a level playing field. Everybody is equal. No one's higher or lower, right? Dominant or inferior, right? Everyone is coming to the table, the round table together, bringing our special sauce, right? Bringing our gifts, bringing our ideas, our inspirations, just bringing our energy, right? We're just coming to the circle and we're bringing our energy. What I love so much when I have been working with this technique that I've been teaching quantum access is I had to really work with the wounded feminine. I'm not gonna lie, there was a lot in there that I just had to be with myself and keep, just facing what's there, be loving for myself, work myself through it, transmute it. But what was one of the kind of the biggest healing steps was I kept getting guided. Bring this wounded fragment of you, this broken piece of you into mother's circle, into mother's cocoon. Like it's a womb space. Like think of it like that, right? Mother's womb space to heal and mend and birth alive again. And I've been doing this for decades and it is such a powerful kind of metaphor, but it's actually real. Like we were birthed from mother's womb, right? And it's here for us. And so now let's talk operating systems. Think of it as mother's circle. It is how our entire universe operates. Everything is by the seasons, right? The circles of the seasons, even how our body is circling our life force, right? Our blood, our breath, like everything is in some type of regenerative cycling. And that's how our universe operates, not a top down hierarchy. That is unnatural. This is an installed unnatural system that we were all herded into to keep it running. And now, as we decide, and it is a conscious choice, we decide to pull out. We pull out of it. We go into the circular operating system. But one of the things that has been so supportive of this process of leaving the old system and going into mother's circle, into the new system, is since last year, Jupiter's been in Cancer, and it's in its final weeks right now. It's going to be in Cancer till June 30th. And if you know anything about astrology, Jupiter, of course, is the big amplifier, right? It's expanding and it's about growth, but it's also about benevolence and abundance. And it's in Cancer, and Cancer is the sign of mother, of the feminine, right? Of home, of belonging, right? Community, of healing, right? The nurturing of mother. So it's shining a big old spotlight on it right now. And so we're in the last couple weeks of this transit. And so this is one of the reasons why Minette, when I wanted to kind of jump on the podcast and talk about it, because we're going to be doing a global meditation next week in honor of Jupiter and Cancer and Mother's Circle. And it's one of the things that I felt, it's healing the wounded feminine in all of us, however that has manifested for you.
In men and women.
Yes, men and women. It's even healing it in the nature kingdom and the plant kingdom, and right? It's healing it all around the world. Like it's this, everybody's included, right? It's a big umbrella. Everybody's included in this one. But it's the sign of safety. And what I have never experienced, I don't think maybe anybody has while we've been in the patriarchy, is experiencing safe love.
Hugs and chocolate chip cookies in grandma's lap. That's the way I
You
think
can
about it.
trust, right? It's
Yeah.
not conditional.
Yeah.
It's not
Feeling accepted
transactional.
and adored and precious, right? And whenever I think about balance, and whenever I want everybody else to think about balance, as you have to remember, even to get here, to make a baby, you need 23 chromosomes from mom and 23 chromosomes from dad. Mom gets to carry the baby, and it's her blood that you become from, but you can't be here without that balance. Perfect, perfect balance. And that's what I think when I talk about the struggle as far as bringing everything into balance. We're not trying to get rid of anybody, we just need to balance it out.
Yeah. I mean, people are saying that we've been in the patriarchy for at least 10,000 years. Like this is like the long game, you guys. This is so new. Now, I think our souls know it.
Yeah. Yeah. In the fight, right? I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here on this planet at this time if I did not know that there's something else that can exist, that should exist, that will exist. And I also want to let us off the hook a little bit in terms of us falling into this system. The bottom line is when you're starting and you're new and you're a baby, you kind of do need dad to go out and fight the bear and, keep you safe until you get your feet on the ground. And I think humanity has now grown or growing up enough to go out and fight our own battle. We're going to be self-determined. We're going to be sovereign. We're going to be balanced. And part of becoming to balance is forgiving where we were.
Well, I think there's a difference for you having a pretty cool, compassionate dad. I had an authoritarian rageaholic dad. So there was a big difference in the vibe and how he showed up and how your dad showed up. And so I think people can see the difference. Some of us had different varieties of that male authoritarian energy growing up.
But think about it. You also had a mom that was far more docile.
She was,
So
but she
I
was
guess what I'm saying,
affectionate.
the amount of energy in your household was the same, but it wasn't in balance.
No, not at all. It was the microcosm of this big ass world system. It was the perfect microcosm of it to
Right.
prep me for what I was getting in for here.
Yeah.
But yes, that's true. And I think too, we didn't have safe love. I don't even think I actually even experienced unconditional love until I was able to heal the wounded heart. It was always like, all right, well, I'll give you attention if you do this or you do that. Like yeah.
Well, we're talking about the basics, right? Some people may understand safe love if they had it as a child, but the minute you go out into the world, that's not true. You could have had all the safe love in the world in your house, in your family. When you go outside, you're out there with the predators like everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's what I am really encouraged by is it's like the wave is turning of public opinion out there. I think people are like, we are so sick of the psychopaths. We are so sick of the cruelty, right? We're so sick of the kind of this egocentric selfishness. You just kind of reach your end point. I think we're at the end point. I think everyone is like, I'm done. All right, we're done. No more.
Yeah, we're done with that. And I think what I'm present to is that in this on the planet, and especially even in this country, we've allowed a very small minority of people to terrorize the majority of people. If 50% of us were awake, none of that would exist.
No,
We're just
no,
and, following blindly, the rules set about by someone who really doesn't care about you.
no. Well, I think it's a testimony to how disassociated so many people are. And so, in a way, they're not in command of their own mind and easily brainwashed. And this is partly what has kind of been misused or manipulated to keep that crew of psychopaths up at the top. They've learned how to manipulate through, hypnotism and NLP and all the ways that they're doing it, especially now with the media, the social media, and all of it. So it's like a master class of manipulation we've been watching in the last probably 20 years at least, and it's gross. And so many people are like not even wanting to be on the internet anymore. Like all that wave. I think we're going to probably have a whole new boost of starting a new internet. Like the whole thing has to just like collapse out under its own corruption and shadow, and then we'll give it a 2.0, right? We'll just start it up again, and we'll have to have, of course, in integrity. It has to be a whole new system, of course, in this mother circle of the circular system, where it cannot be a tool of manipulation. It has to be a tool for community, right? For
Yeah,
connection.
yeah.
That's what we're seeing coming.
And to me, the biggest motivator in humans that I'm witnessing in practically everyone I meet is that impulse inside of them to be connected, right? That's the
Yeah.
thing that's gonna make you say
Starving
no.
for it.
Right, that to me, that's the thing that's gonna make you say no to the ugliest, and that's the thing that's gonna make you put the iPad down, because it's not gonna be feeding that sweetness that you get a taste of. Mother's
That's already
milk.
happening.
Yeah.
I'm on it. I'm like, okay, this is just gross. And I pull out. It used to be so much fun. We had Facebook and Twitter. It was so much fun. It was all about community and communicating. And it was like the town hall, right? Everyone can gather. All of that is gone. It's just vitriol. It's not fun. And it's not bonding people. It's alienating everyone. So I think it's part of the collapse. It is part of the
Yeah.
collapse.
They'll take the tiniest little insecurity and turn it into a whole field of fear, and we just can't allow that anymore. We're as humans, we have to be careful of what we ingest. Our diet is not just what we eat, it is also what we hear, and
Yes, that too. What we give out, what we
yeah.
receive. Yes, we're transmitters, receivers. So we're starting to get really clean and clear of what energy we're engaging in and what we're allowing in, and just setting the healthy boundaries. And it's and so this is part of what everyone's going to be getting. This is the master class and going through a collapsing system. We're just going to get real good at this, and it just is part of this time. But also, I kind of feel like I'm okay, we're finishing up over here, and then I'm just opening into the new circular system full bore, like bring it baby, like, and just go fully into it. And it is delicious, you guys. It's so nurturing, and it's safe, and it's secure, and it's loving, and it is a sacred space for community. And that's what we're here to not only just discuss and share, but encourage everyone to join.
Lots
And
of
so
encouragement.
yes, and so Minette and I, we put on twice a month we're putting on global meditations, and people come in from all around the world. This is one of the beauties of the internet. Still, thank God, it's still happening, even like all the other stuff is starting to tear it down, but we are able to still get on Zoom and get on with people all around the world, and we create one conscious quantum mind, and we really start to work in the field, the planetary field, to first just adjust and live ourselves in this new circular system. We're evolving quickly, because as that system collapses, it's got a ripple effect through the entire world, right? So this ripple effect is creating a very accelerated quantum transformation happening in us. And so we're what has been dormant within us is what we call our light body or our energy body, and that is turning on. That switch is flipped. And so what I'm watching is, we've been dominant physical body. Now we're going to be more energy body with a physical body, right? Spiritual body with just a physical. So the spiritual body, energy body, light body, whatever you want to call it, will be the dominant force within us in kind of a container, which is the physical body. That's a huge switch. So it's not only happening on the planet and switching in an operating system, but it's happening with us too.
Yeah. And that makes us more responsive to each other. We can feel each other. We can get a sense of the truth of one another. And it happens pretty quickly. I was visiting with my folks a few months back, and they watch a lot of news. Lots of news. And so that's a vibration. So when outside, my father and I left, we went on a walk at the park, and I could feel his whole countenance change as he was breathing and looking around and seeing all the families outside taking their kids to play baseball and people having picnics and butterflies and flowers. Completely changed. All of that programming changed just like that in the witnessing of community.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. That's how fast it can work when we turn our attention to the truth. And so that we're gonna keep encouraging you to join us on the global meditation, because it's so nice to come together, and the intentions that everyone shares, to see that there are so many other people on the planet in different points of the world who are also looking for the same love and sweetness that you're looking for. Meg's not doing it. Meg's not trying to be a guru. I'm definitely not trying to be a guru. But it's just about sharing and connecting and becoming and making what I call it the love bubbles.
Yes, yes, the love bubble. So with that, I think that's a good place to close for today. It's just such an extraordinary time to be alive, and part of kind of, like I would say, our discipline is to stay focused more on where we're going into this new Earth circular system, not so much where we came from in the old system that's collapsing. So this is kind of you just keep pulling your focus, stay focused right on your path, right in front of every step you're taking into the new Earth, and we'll be right there with you. All right. Always a pleasure to connect with you. Great to see you, Minette, my dear.
So good to see you, Meg, always. Thank you.
We'll go out into our day now and just shine
Yeah.
bright. All right. Until next time. Bye for a while, everyone. Bye bye.